to suspend the rules and pass S-1523 as amended.
Clerk will report the title of the bill.
Senate 1523, an act to amend the Federal Water Pollution Control Act to reauthorize the National Estuary Program and for other purposes.
To the rule of the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Gibbs, and the gentleman from Oregon, Mr. DeFazio, will each control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Ohio.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous materials on S-1523.
Without objection. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself as much time as I may consume. Today, we are here to reauthorize the National Estuary Program found in Section 320 of the Clean Water Act. Last June, here in the House, we passed Mr. Lombardo's H.R. 944, and today we are passing Senate Bill 1523, which was introduced by Senator Whitehouse. Estuaries are unique and highly productive waters that are important to the ecological and economic basis of our nation. Congress first authorized the National Estuary Program in 1987, amendments to the Clean Water Act, to promote the protection of nationally significant estuaries in the United States that are deemed to be threatened by pollution, development, or overuse. Unlike many of the programs under the Clean Water Act, the National Estuary Program is a non-regulatory program. Instead, it is designed to support the collaborative, voluntary efforts of federal, state, and local stakeholders to restore degraded estuaries. Using consensus building and a collaborative decision-making process instead of a top-down driven regulatory approach, the National Estuary Program has been effective at promoting locally based involvement. In addition, the NEP leverages non-federal money for restoration activities by providing funding for the program. In reauthorizing the National Estuary Program, S-1523 makes prudent fiscal adjustments. The amendment to Senate Bill 1523 strikes the text of the Senate bill and instead uses the legislative text of the House-passed H.R. 944, an agreement which was reached to split the differences in authorized appropriation levels of the two bills. As amended, the bill reauthorizes Section 320 of the Clean Water Act through 2021 at an amount of $26.5 million a year. This amount is consistent with appropriations of the past 5 years and is recognition of the fiscal realities of today. Senate Bill 1523 also directs more funds to where they need to be, the individual estuaries in the program. The bill achieves this by reducing the amount of discretionary funds made available to the EPA. Finally, the bill allocates a portion of the eligible program funds for competitive awards to federal, state, and local stakeholders to address certain high-priority estuary needs, including algae blooms, apoxia, flooding, and invasive species. I urge all members to support the bill, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from Oregon is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today I rise in support of S-1523. I'm pleased the House is again considering legislation to reauthorize EPA's National Estuary Program. Last summer, the House approved by voice vote a similar bill championed by my colleagues, the gentleman from Washington, Mr. Larson, and Florida, Mr. Murphy. I thank them for their hard work and dedication to produce this important piece of legislation. Estuaries are integral to the health and vibrancy of our national economy and environment. They're formed, as all know, when fresh water drained from land mixes with salty seawater, and they serve as a nesting and feeding grounds for many plants and animals that form the basis of the aquatic food chain. Estuaries also help to maintain healthy ocean and coastal environments by filtering out sediments and pollutants that flow through our rivers and streams before they reach the ocean. Moreover, during storm and flood events, estuaries help defend our shores by softening the blow of storm surge. More than one-half our population lives in coastal areas, and countless Americans depend on estuaries for storm and flood protection and for the cultivation of their livelihoods. Estuarine habitats provide for millions of jobs in our country and contribute trillions to our national economy every year. These jobs are created by commercial, recreational fishing, boating, as well as tourism and other forms of recreation taking place just off our shores. As one of my colleagues noted during previous consideration of this legislation, restoring our estuaries can create more than 30 jobs for every $1 million invested. Regrettably, before we fully understood the extraordinary and irreplaceable value of estuaries, numerous activities were undertaken that have led to the decline in the health of our estuaries, leaving these coastal areas of our country vulnerable to pollution and more frequent and severe storm events. It is also undeniable that the population growth near estuaries has led to increased stormwater runoff, sewage discharges fed into these fragile environments. Simply put, estuaries are too ecologically important to leave their fate to chance. With that in mind, today we consider S-1523, desperately needed legislation that will reauthorize EPA's National Estuary Program. Since 1987, the National Estuary Program has operated at EPA in partnership with state and local partners and has developed innovative solutions to local water quality problems in estuarine environments. This non-regulatory program currently works to improve the health of 28 estuaries across the country, including 3 estuaries in the Northwest, Puget Sound, Tillamook, and Columbia River estuaries. These estuaries are of great importance to my home state, Oregon, and our regional and national economies. Restoring and protecting these areas should be one of our highest concerns. Mr. Speaker, this bipartisan bill will ensure that local organizations across the country, in partnership with EPA, can protect and restore estuaries for the benefit of future generations. I support passage of this legislation and hope that this is the last time this House must act to send this important bill to the President. I urge my colleagues to join me in supporting S-1523. I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Oregon reserves. Gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield as much time as it may consume the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Lobiando, who sponsored the bill and has worked tirelessly to protect estuaries throughout the nation.
Gentleman from New Jersey is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I'd like to thank Chairman Schuster, Chairman Gibbs, Ranking Member DeFazio, and Napolitano, as well as colleagues Larson, Posey, and Murphy of Florida, in helping to draft this legislation and reauthorization. And we all share the hope that this is the last go-around to get this done. Estuaries across the country, including the Delaware Bay and Barnegat Bay estuaries in my district, have immeasurable economic, ecological, and environmental benefit. They deserve continued congressional support. This version of the National Estuary Program reauthorization is bipartisan, fiscally responsible, compromise with the Senate that reduces the authorization by $8.5 million, but the important part is it ultimately increases the amount of money each estuary program will receive. Unlike many programs under the Clean Water Act, the National Estuary Program is a non-regulatory program, uniquely designed to support the collaborative, voluntary efforts of federal, state, and local stakeholders to restore degraded estuaries. Unfortunately, the NEPs have been losing money due to increasing EPA administrative costs. We've heard that before, but in this particular case, it's really hurting. To correct that, our legislation details precisely how the EPA is to spend the authorized and appropriated money. By setting limits of 5% for the EPA's administrative costs, we can guarantee 80% of the funding goes directly to the needs of the estuary and not bureaucratic salary and red tape. Also, in this year's reauthorization, we have set aside 15% of the funding for a competitive award program. This program seeks applications to deal with urgent and challenging issues that threaten the ecological and economic well-being of coastal areas. By structuring how the money is spent and lowering the authorization levels, this legislation strikes the right balance of fiscal and environmental responsibility. I want to thank my colleagues once again for their strong support of this, and I urge all members to support the bill. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from New Jersey yields back. Gentleman from Oregon.
I have no further speakers. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Oregon yields back the balance of his time. Gentleman from Ohio.
I will yield back the balance of my time, just urge support legislation to protect estuaries throughout the country.
The gentleman from Ohio yields back the balance of his time. The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass Senate 1523 as amended? Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.